Good afternoon. My name is Corinne Mitchell. My son Luke is serving a life sentence of 20 years for a murder he did not commit. I would like, if I may, to give you a short account of what can happen to any one of us. Background of our family. We were and are a law-abiding, normal, quite boring, but happy family. I run a local family business and the boys were never in trouble. One night, that would change forever. The judge at Luke's trial made a big thing about Luke being from a broken home. Our home is not broken. It was working very well. I was married to my son's father for 20 years. Some would say that's a life sentence in itself. Then when things started to go wrong, we parted. That doesn't make us unusual. Most of my friends my age are also divorced, and we all agree that when there is no partner, we have actually more time to spend with our kids. The boys saw their father on a regular basis, and they didn't just have one loving home, they had in fact two. We were lucky as parents. Both boys had a good circle of friends from good homes. They never fell into a bad crowd, which is every parent's nightmare. If the judge truly believed Luke committed murder because his parents were divorced, why then are we not afraid of our own royal family? Luke's persona. Luke is polite and well-mannered. He is kind and considerate. I'm complimented on this and it makes me very proud. He shares his love of animals with me and spent most of his time in the stables with his pony, or playing with our dog, Mia. He played a big part in Mia's training as a tracker, and it was a joy to watch them together. Just after he outgrew his pony, he started going out with Jodie. Jodie herself indeed wrote in her diary about how kind and gentle he was. I had no problem getting him to help me with chores. He appreciated I had to work full-time to pay the bills, and he helped both at home and at work. At work, Jodie used to join him, and the pair of them cut the grass together on the sit-on mower. At home, cutting grass wasn't his thing though, no tractor. He cooked at home. Like all teenagers, his bedroom was the root of all rows. In the end, like most mothers, I gave up. I kept his door closed. On the 30th of June 2003, Jodie was murdered, and Luke was involved in the search, along with members of Jodie's family and Mia, our dog. Sorry, my legs were shaking. The press. From the off, they were vile. We read complete nonsense and rubbish about ourselves for months until I banned papers from our home. They were almost camped out in front of our house. Some even brought sandwiches. Some threw themselves on the bonnet of our car for photos. They broke all the rules about a minor, and they were getting away with it. They named and photographed him, and he was only 14 years old. How many times do we hear, they cannot be named for legal reasons? This went out the window when your name is Luke Mitchell. Reporters and editors don't care that their lies destroy lives. Not only the victim they have picked on, but entire families. In some cases, it can whip up some members of the public who believe their lies into almost vigilante mode, and they attack totally innocent people. My business, car, and home were attacked. I was also attacked in the prison car park. People have said to me, go to press complaints. I have. Nothing is ever done, and the press know this. They know they can get away with it, so they do. In recent cases, Chris Jeffries was victimised by the press for the murder of Joanna Yates. He was innocent. Rebecca Layton was also victimised. She was also released, yet half the country were to believe this nurse murdered by saline drip poisoning. This witch-hunting frenzy must stop. It ruins the lives of totally innocent people and their families. And if their cases do end up in court, the jurors have already made up their minds from what they have read. No one should be named before a trial and subsequent verdict. The time of innocent until proven guilty is gone. Editors must be held to account for what they do to innocent people. These people were perceived by press as guilty before there was ever a trial. This must stop now. The police. I was brought up to respect and trust the police. I was to discover I was misinformed. Procedure. We didn't know what that was, and it changed all the time. They fed the press, who fed the public. There was no evidence against Luke, yet there was evidence against others. Yet they pursued Luke and ignored information leading away from Luke. Luke was the only member of the search party to be stripped, and various tests done on him. He was 14. They knew I was on my way, only a few minutes away. Yet they did this with no adult present. They stripped a child who was on his own and who had just had the most awful scene in his head. In further later questioning, he asked for a lawyer. He was refused. He asked for me. He was refused. How can they treat a child in this way? They bullied his friends into saying things they didn't mean and used their cannabis dabblings against them. The treatment of a murder scene was appalling, shocking, and downright unprofessional and ignorant. When a murder is spoken about on the news, we all see a tent. There was no tent for Jodie. She was left out in the elements all night without a tent. We are told the murder scene has been secured. Certainly not in this case. The police who were first at the scene trampled all over it. They moved the body and items of clothing. They cut down branches and vegetation and didn't stop local bins being emptied. They didn't use sniffer or tracker dogs. They had one at the scene already, Mia, yet they took her off to the police station with Luke. What I will tell you now is truly dropping. Not only did they not preserve the scene, they used bleach to clean it. Only a few days after the murder, before the murderer was caught, then, and only then, did they bring in tracker dogs, after cleaning the scene. These dogs were brought up from Yorkshire. Do we not have any Scottish tracker dogs? I would truly love to ask the person who ordered this, why? They showed unorthodox photos to a witness. They made sure press saw handcuffs on Luke when he was detained. I reminded him he was a minor. He had just turned 15. That was ignored. Excuse me. They took numerous items from our house, unrelated to a murder. If anyone else does that, they call it theft. They took brand new clothing, kitchen utensils, etc., etc., when they knew I'd replaced them after the first search. I told them this, and I was ignored. They wrote down unnecessary implicating words like concealed instead of in, and caught instead of seen. They wrote a pair of trousers were concealed in a hold all. I told them they were in a hold all. It was a hold all Luke used every weekend to go to his father's, and like every other teenager, it wasn't emptied from one weekend to the next. They wrote I had a Stanley knife concealed in a drawer. To be honest, I did actually laugh at them and told them to check every home in the country. I tried to explain the purpose of drawers, but went straight over the top of their heads. I was caught, apparently, on CCTV, yet Jodie's family member was seen on CCTV. What was I caught doing exactly? Buying cigs and a bottle of wine. Granted, it's not a healthy shopping list, but I was over 18. Well over 18. And I didn't even have to show ID. We had to prove everything, yet others did not. What they said, with no proof or corroboration, was taken as fact. The arrests. They came into our home in a style fit for the best action-packed movie and gave the press a stunning performance. They let Shane leave the house, only to set up roadblocks, dragged him out of his car, put him face down on the ground and handcuffed him. Shane thought it was because he had a bald tyre, bless him. They ran up the stairs and instead of opening Luke's bedroom door by means of turning a handle, they kicked it in, causing it to come off the hinges, and it landed on top of Luke, who was badly bruised. In the process, someone really should teach them how to work handles. They came into the living room where I was, shouting, "Hands up." I did so immediately. When faced with several men shouting at you, you do. Then they shouted, "Control the dog." I did so immediately. Mia was a German Shepherd. They don't take too kindly to anyone attacking their family. She wasn't a happy bunny. Again they shouted, "Hands up." I did so. Again, control the dog. I did so. This was repeated, and I didn't know what to do. I actually got to this stage where I thought, this is no damn time to play the hokey-cokey. Could I put a hand up and control the dog with the other? And this seemed to work. Luke and myself were taken from the house in handcuffs and taken to the police station. None of us got to see a lawyer, though when my mother phoned the station, she was told we had a lawyer with us as they speak. A downright lie. After 6 hours, I was charged and released. Shane, who was taken to a different station, was charged and released. Our charges were dropped at Luke's trial. Luke was charged and detained. That was the last he was to see of his home. And it's now been 7.5 years. I cannot tell you how heartbreaking that is for a mother, to have her child taken away when none of us had done anything wrong. Luke was never allowed a lawyer whenever he was questioned prior to his arrest. He was never allowed me present, even though he was a minor. This is child abuse. We are supposed to be a civilised country. Is this civilised behaviour? I think not. The trial. Many have asked why Luke didn't take the stand. Simple. His QC wouldn't allow him. Many have asked why certain witnesses weren't called. Again, simple. His QC didn't call them. 16-year-old boys are not allowed to make demands. At one point, when Luke asked for a certain witness to be called, his QC banged his fist on the table and said, "It's my way or no way, bloody." The judge suggested to the jury that Luke was so high on cannabis he carried out a frenzied attack on Jodie. And two things wrong here. When Luke was tested for drugs, he was clear. And two, anyone who knows anything about cannabis will tell you it does not make you frenzied. If anything, it has the opposite effect. Again, why did his QC not call in a cannabis expert, as the judge clearly was not? A great deal of money was spent by Luke's legal team to bring a dog training expert up from London to put Mia through extensive tests, and again a second time with a film crew, as it was Mia who actually found Jodie, and not Luke, as the prosecution would have people believe. Mia passed all her tests with flying colours, yet this was not used in court, and the QC did not call this expert. At the end of the day, Mia was just being a dog. She smelled blood. How many times do we hear on the news a dog walker found a body? It is not the walker, but the dog who alerts the walker. Their noses are far, far greater than ours. Why then, in Luke's case, was this not accepted, when it's accepted in all other cases? There was an amazing change of statements by the time of the trial. What was said in statements did not match what was said in court, yet this was not questioned. There was an absence of witnesses and evidence, and the jury were not told the whole truth. Then came the verdict. Guilty. I would advise anyone who finds himself at this horrific stage, sack your lawyer immediately. Do not be naive like us and think you have to stay with them. You can sack them, so do. They will find another client, and you will find another lawyer. The word guilty means they have not done their job. When you're dragged kicking and screaming into a world you know nothing about, seek help. You're not emotionally stable enough to think straight and do the best for your loved one. We all need the Sandra Lanes of this world. They work tirelessly to find the truth and what went so wrong that has left your family devastated. They're also a godsend to any future legal teams. Laughter is a must, and thank God Luke and I have been blessed with a sense of humour. Our humour has kept us both from a padded cell and nice white jackets with lots of straps. Family, friends and customers have all been very supportive, but in Scotland there's a lack of support for miscarriages of justice apart from Mojo, whose resources are limited. People like us need people like us. More places in Scotland is what we need, where we can go so we don't feel alone in our nightmare. Catch-22. When someone is convicted in prison for a violent crime, in order to get parole, they must attend an anger management course. When that person is innocent, they have no anger to manage. They have not been violent. But no course, no parole. If they don't attend, they don't get parole. If they do attend, it's taken as an admission of guilt. Too many times we hear of people serving far longer sentences than they were actually given. This is the reason. They're in a catch-22. They're damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't. This procedure has to stop. It is immoral and unfair, and it is time human rights put a stop to it. Luke's trial was the longest in Scottish history of a single accused. It could easily have been the shortest. Why did his QC not stand up at the start of Luke's trial and say, "Your Honour, members of the jury, we have sperm, semen, blood, saliva and hairs. They are not my clients. I raise my case." And with that, I raise mine. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much. See how hard that would be, but well done. You're very